Girl, so happy to see you. I know we're both like a little bit on the hamster wheel this month. A little bit.
I know. I'm like, I am coffeeing as well. We are actually drinking coffee together. I love it. And I realized I was like, oh my God, I made my latte like 15 minutes ago. So I was kind of like chugging it before our call. So hopefully hopefully I can sip away and finish it up because I'm so excited to talk to you. I was like reading through all these notes and I was like, I have so many ideas about everything and I just hope I can like speak articulately. See, I'm already off to a good start.
Hey, you are in great company because it's just been one of those weeks, and I don't really identify as being woo, but something about this full moon this week I think is definitely relevant. And my even my own words feel a little jostled together. Girl, you're in good company. You're in great company.
I love it. You're so right about that full moon, man. Craziness. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So thank you again. I want our audience, I've already been bragging about you, but I want them to hear from you, of course, because we're talking about this element of play. Last week, I was talking about it in reference to, ad lib and vocal improvisation, but embracing exploration, embracing play in all areas of our life. I think, like we just talked about how crazy this week has felt, how crazy we might even be feeling. And I think that probably gives us a little bit of grace as we approach, what we do as teachers, as business owners. And so before we dive in, tell us more about you, my love, and about your journey as an artist, to teaching, and then all of the magical things that you do today.
Cool. I know, what a funny introduction. I actually really love that we're like talking right about that too, because I was thinking about this on my walk. I was going on a walk this morning before our call, and I was thinking about play and the element of play. And I'm just going to first, like before I get into my story, I just want to like be really upfront and honest, since that's what we're doing right from the get-go. Yes. I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation because I'm not going to sit here and talk about, first you do this and then you do that. And like right now I'm very much in teaching mode. So that is kind of where my brain is at. But the funny thing about play in my life is that right now with singing, I'm not playing. And I realized, I was like, wow, that's so interesting. I feel like I'm playing a lot as a voice teacher, as a business owner. I haven't tapped into play in a little bit with singing. I kind of like put it on the back burner. Not that it's like completely that I turned off the stove. It's just kind of simmering. And I think that's a really fun element to kind of bring to the table, that like we are all in different seasons of our life, and that is okay. And that's kind of what play is all about in my mind. Play and everything we're going to talk about and my story, it really is like just kind of owning what the present moment is giving you, because that's really what it is. So, okay, I think this is going to be so fun and so different. So I wanted to start saying that because it is a little different coming at it, knowing like, oh yeah, how do we bring in the element of play? Truthfully, I didn't have a lot of play in my childhood, and I have a very unique background in that my parents are both musicians, and they're both amazing musicians. Like they are top-notch level classical. My mother is a classical pianist. My dad's a jazz professor. And so singing was something I did. I like had to do it. And I was actually listening to a podcast episode about this with, I don't know if you know Glennan Doyle's podcast.
Yes.
Love. So Abby had like kind of a similar upbringing with her soccer, right? And she's this like, she was in the World Cup and whatnot. And I was listening to her story and I was like, yeah, it's so interesting being in my world, because I learned how to read music when I was 4. I don't even remember learning how to do it. And I started, voice lessons very young, and I just was going to be a singer, and that was it. And I sang for everything. I did all of the concerts in high school, and I was a serious singer, and I went to school for it. And I did not tap into play in that tone. And it's so wild to think about, because I think, truthfully, if I get to the heart of it, that's actually what helped inspire it come about in my later life. I think a lot of us, especially voice teachers, can attest to the fact that like when we go to school and when we go to university and do that, it's really easy to get warped into the mindset of that institution, which is not always healthy. And it can be very competitive. And so that was something that I went through during my college years. It was very like, okay, I'm in college. I'm going to be a serious singer. This is what we do. And yeah, I mean, I was like, I've always had this like bright, bubbly personality, but it wasn't like I was, you know, very creative at that time. It was very like, I do my repertoire and I do my juries and I do my auditions and that's what I do.
And people listening to this will be like, what? Like they'll see that as a paradox, which is so fascinating. So yeah, continue for sure.
Right? I know. And that's the funny thing, because like you go to school thinking, oh, I'm going to study voice and it's going to be so much fun and creativity and all this stuff. And I was very gung-ho opera and also pop. I was a crossover singer in LA. So crossover singer in LA. I went to USC for grad school, and it was very like I said, kind of cutthroat experience. And between my bachelor's and my master's, I took a year off. And that little year really defined a lot for me. And I'm sure a lot of people who have felt this, especially when they've graduated music school, it's very unique because there is no path. You didn't get a career, you know, what do they call those? Career advisors, right? Who was like, and now you're going to do this and this and this. Like we didn't have that. So that year off was very like, who am I? Do I really love opera? Wait. And I had that kind of, I'll call it the Abby Wambach moment, because she talked about this. Do I really like this? Am I even a singer? Like what just happened over the last 21 years? Like I have no idea. I feel like I blacked out. So when I was 22, that's when everything changed. I actually, I moved in with 4 guys, if you can even imagine that. So it was a house with me and 4 guys, and they're all wonderful. I love all of them. And one of them was a producer, and his room was right next to me, and he's, you know, producing and electronic music, and I'm listening to it, on my wall next to me, like trying to go to sleep because I'm going like, you know, whatever. And so I start being like kind of interested in what he's doing. Very different style, right? Electronic too, like something I'd never done as a classical.
I was just imagining a sweet little classical Allie, like bumping and grinding.
Right? I like that. This is when I was introduced to like Skrillex, and like my whole world was changed. And now I go to Burning Man and I love electronic music. But yeah, that was a very defining time, because I also had this like guy that I could bounce ideas off of, and I was always a songwriter on the very, very, very inside. And like, even for me to say I'm a songwriter at 33 still feels like, you know, but I am, and I know I am. Wow. And for me to go to Ryan and be like, hey, I have some songs. Do you think we can like record them? Would that be cool? That was so fun. And that spurred all kinds of creativity, getting in the studio, right? Such a different experience. Have you done that before? Because you you record all your stuff. Do you actually like, tell me about your studio real quick. Because do you like produce in any of that? Or how do you, what's that like in your world?
I love that we're talking about things that we know are a part of us, but it feels really vulnerable to say them out loud. Because just this year for myself, I've made a commitment to getting back to my own music as a songwriter. So I've been in studio settings with groups, like ensemble things that I was a part of in college, but never for myself. And now, like, I've invested in these courses for DIY female musicians and recording music. And there is so much we can do on our own now. So I just love that you kind of gave us a little peek into that window of who you were, because that's exactly what I'm tapping into for myself this year. So yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly like kind of what I was talking about in the beginning, where I was like, thing I haven't played with either, but like we can kind of define like what play means for us, right? It's like, you're like, you know, 2023, this is my year to play as a singer, you know, such a different, fun thing to do as an adult, and to really be conscious of it. And yeah, and I feel like when you have that kind of, I think songwriting in particular, there's something about that just feels extra playful and extra enjoyable. And I mean, if you really are asking like what I think play is, that is what, like for me, that's how I tap into it the most. And I wouldn't even dare to say the word songwriting. That feels way too big to me because songwriting, I'm kind of tangenting right now, but
that's okay. Yeah.
yeah. Songwriting to me is like I am sitting with a song and I'm refining it and I'm adding words and what chords am I doing? How am I doing? You're making something, right? You're like making a piece of art. That is very enjoyable. But for me, I just love melodies. Love melodies. And they are like, so, okay. I'm not playing as much as a singer right now, but maybe it's this full moon. Who knows? I don't know about you, but I have been feeling this season very tapped in to those creative moments. Like for me, it's a melody that comes in. And it's always when I'm like in the kitchen or I'm in the shower or I'm dry. Never when I'm thinking about it, right? It never
Of course.
Always when I'm doing something else. And then I'm like, oh, and then it's like, boom, there's a melody. And then suddenly my phone's out and I have to record it. I have like 400 melodies that I don't know what to do with, but I
great company.
right? It's like but that is kind of the play too, is just allowing those moments to come in and then being okay with the fact that you don't know what to do with them and you don't have to do anything with them.
I love that. Yeah. I love that so much. And it feels, this is you've just tapped into a conversation that you and I often have in group settings with what you do, which I want to get into here as well, with how this path has led you to where you are today as an amazing, voice coach, a business coach for voice teachers like myself, of Voicepreneur. But this narrative of, we're finally facing whatever limitations we experienced, whether they be in childhood or just in previous years as artists. And now it's bubbling forth and we want to let that loose, and that's, I think that's why I think there's a reason we have those download moments in what you're talking about, washing dishes. For me, it's the shower. I literally looked up on Amazon the other day, whiteboards for showers, because
I love it.
My gosh, like I am so tired of stepping out, dripping wet, trying to grab my phone so I don't forget.
I love this visual of you naked writing notes in the shower. This is so great.
It's so many. Will it actually work? I don't know. But at this point, there's so much that's happening, right, creatively. And so I want to segue from this into what you're doing now, because I think this is what makes you magnetic to so many fellow singers and voice teachers in particular. So tell us about how this journey led you, because you did take a break from voice teaching and then you just came back, right?
Yeah.
And now you are very vocal about how you get to do it the way that you want, which is what play is, and run your business the way that you want. How do we do that, Allie? Tell us a little bit more about how you got to that place.
That's so funny you brought that up, because I do think it really, I think it is a break. I think it is a break. I think the way that my brain works is that I've always been able to kind of like get my head out of the forest. Does that even make sense? The forest of you know what I mean? When you're like, whatever that phrase is, where you're like, you can't see the trees in the forest, whatever. I'm able to get out of the forest. I've always had that ability. And I've always been able to just like take a look and be like, does this really matter? And so I think it's important as artists that we do that, because I think we all get really wrapped up in like, I went to school, I have my master's degree, I perform, I'm this identity, I'm that, I'm a gigging musician, I'm a wedding singer, I'm a this identity. Like, just take a look, get out of your like head for a second and recognize that, knock on wood, of course we understand that life is short, but life is also long. And I really believe that. It's a different mindset to be like, what if I don't have to do that right now? What if I can do it in 5 years or in a year or in a decade or never, right? And I feel like taking breaks is a huge component of that, because it's one thing to be like, I'm taking a break. Okay, so for me, I took a break because I had a baby, right? I went on maternity leave, I had a baby, and it was hysterical because in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll come back in 3 months. I won't have childcare and I'll have an infant and I'll teach and it'll be so easy breezy. Obviously, that was not the case. And I had no plan. But during that break, it was a long break. I told my students, I'll be back in September. I had them in July, didn't come back. Now it's December, and now I'm feeling that itchiness of like, holy crap, I'm not teaching and I have an infant and like we finally got, daycare. Like, what am I doing? Am I going back? And then I just thought, that wasn't a break. That wasn't a break. That was me having anxiety about the fact, when am I going to come back? When am I going to come back? When am I going to come back? And I was like, what if I actually just took a real break? And like, I've never done this. I've been teaching since I was 18. That was 13 years.
Wow.
Ongoing. I've never had like time to just not teach and not have a plan of when to go back. I had not set in my calendar, and I'm a Virgo and I love my calendar, man. And for me to be like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to come back. And to tell my students that, I don't really know. I'll let you know when I know. I don't really know. That was like the most freeing feeling for me. And I felt like in that break, that's when I could really tap into the most amount of fun and the most amount of clarity around what a new form of fun could be for me. That's what I mean about getting out of the forest. When you're in it, you can't see, right? Like, I'm doing this class right now. I'm teaching this course for voice teachers. And I just taught this class on Tuesday about defining your alignment and how your business is the path to alignment. It's not the path to stress and tension and all of that stuff. I mean, yes, there's that part of it, but your structure is your alignment. How you do your scheduling is how you value your time, and how you do your payments is how you value money, and how you do your policies is how you value your boundaries. Like, you can be the decider of all these things, right? But when you're in the forest and you have all these students and you're doing all these gigs and you're in it, you're doing the thing, it's really hard to try to like, wait, what am I doing that's fun? And how do I change my life? And how can I make alignment work for me? It's hard. And I totally understand that. And that's why I really think taking a break is so valuable. I didn't even think we were going to talk about that, but I just felt like, when I think back on it, that is why it was so much more fun to come back. And now that I'm coming back, it's so different.
The whole break thing. Yeah, the whole break thing that you just said makes me think of recess.
Yeah, right.
Playtime is the break from the everything else, so
wow.
it makes so much sense that's exactly how it worked for you, and giving clarity and again, of all the things you were talking about, having to have an identity, having to have things defined, actually it's when you finally made that definitive and said, this is a break, and embracing that time is when it just flowed, right?
Yeah.
What does flow look like for you? Like you described when those melodies just started downloading, that's one element of it. What's in your life as a professional? What does that like? Take us through a moment of flow for you when you finally tap into to the creativity coming, because this is about performing artists. So we tap into that in many different ways. Some people do it, through movement, through nature, so what does that look like for you when you're in the
love that. What a beautiful question. Let's see. No one's ever asked me this before. How do I tap into flow? I think for me, it's, again, going back to kind of like a little bit of the touching on the break element, and particularly the guilt that can come from rest. Yes. I have worked very, very hard and done many, many years of therapy to help me manage that. And I think there's a lot of guilt that comes with the creative process, because I do it too, like being a teacher, it's like, you get in flow and that feels good. And we can talk about that in a second. But then there's also that voice that's like, is this good? Wait, that was crappy. Oh my God. Why did you say that? Well, and like, then there's the guilt of, oh, I didn't put it out there. That's another one. I should have done it. Or the feeling of it gnawing at you. Oh, I really want to do that thing. And then you keep procrastinating. So there's all these like little resistant elements that come with being a creative that are so normal, and everybody feels them. Read the book, The War of Art. Have you read that before?
This is the third time somebody's recommended it to me, so I'm taking it as a sign. My birthday's coming up. I'll put it on my Amazon list.
Oh my God, I love that. Great idea. I'm going to do that for my birthday Amazon list. So good. Yes, it's a great book. And it's really just about that, right? It's about recognizing the resistance and being with it. And, you know, like, so going back to flow, you know, songwriting is such a funny thing for me because I do really tap into melodies doing monotonous activities. And I encourage everybody to do this. When you're driving your car, when you're taking a shower, when you're folding your laundry, when you're doing your dishes, when you're doing those things that we got to do, right? Maybe with the exception of brushing your teeth, but like anything where you can sing at the same time, just open your mouth and sing and just see what happens. And you would be very surprised what can come out. I love listening to music. And like yesterday I did this actually. Okay, so this is tapping in. I'm working on this class. Yesterday was a major hustle day for me. I didn't even post on Instagram stories, which is like basically never. That's how much of a hustle day it was. It was like, do not disturb, bye phone, doing it. And then at noon, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. every day. And so now at noon, it's like 6 hours of work. And I'm like, okay, I need a break. Yes. I have electronic music playing in the background. I love having down tempo music when I'm working. It gets me in my flow. I have a playlist called Creative Flow. We can link it in here if you want. It's about 10 hours of really amazing music. So I'm listening to this song and I'm like, I'm just going to go to the piano and just see if I can figure out what the chords are. So I turned up the music real loud and I sat and I played the chords and I was like, ooh, I love this chord progression. I'm stealing this. And I paused it. I made up like a little melody to go over it. Like I'm talking 30 seconds, right? Pushed play again. Now I'm singing the melody. Now I'm playing. Now we're all playing together, me and my electronic DJ, right? And so we're playing music together. And then I rewind it again. And then I'm singing just with the track. And now I'm adding another loop. This was so much fun. Like I just got lost in like that, you know, and replaying the song probably 2 times. This took about maybe 7 minutes. And then I went right back into work and I felt like it literally felt like I filled my cup, you know, like I was just like 7 minutes of songwriting. So I think like that's just one example. When I get to like, now I'm going to write music. And at 7 p.m. I have finished my day. I'm going to close my computer. Let's go sit at the piano and play. Nothing. Never, nothing ever, anytime. It always has to be when I'm doing something. So for me, yeah, it would be like listening to music. That really is a good prompt for me. Driving, walking, and hiking are like my absolute non-negotiables. Do you have non-negotiables, like things
Absolutely. Movement. Yeah. So much so because it's such a core part of my own anxiety management. So much so that my family knows, Mom, have you walked today? Today?
I love
That's
it.
usually code for you're really crabby and not that much fun to be around right now. Did you move today?
That's great.
I have some sweet accountability partners there, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah, movement
too. It's just part of the somatic experience as well for artists.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to do like multitask in that way.
Yeah.
And let it flow and let it flow.
Yes.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And give yourself time too. Like I don't know, like try not to be so rigid with our days, with what we're going to do that day. In particular with singing and creativity, when it starts getting too stuffy and routine-y and boring, that's your sign to take a break. And then when you're like, I'm kind of want to put a little music on, that's when you put it on and then see what happens and let the flow come and just, let the flow come to you. Let the muse come to you.
I love this. I love this so much and identify with this so much, especially just having like that designated playlist, for all
Right.
those things and those early morning. I get it. I get it. So I'm thinking about the listener, the hobbyist singer, which you and I have these people in our studios, and we've talked about how much we love working, especially our adult hobbyists, right? So they've designated time, either it's with lessons or something like that, as their me time. So
Yeah.
do you find that for that type of client, are you incorporating is their time with you exactly what you've talked about, like that play? Like I know I'm talking about in a lesson setting, but so I'm thinking of my sweet professionals who have the 9 to 5, and they're trying to just get stuff done when they do get home, like we get that too. And I understand that. So do you have these people that come to you specifically for that, their 45 minutes, their hour with you, whatever that time do you
Yeah.
facilitate that for them?
100%. 100%. Isn't that fun? I love that. Yeah. That is like it's like their self-care time. I always think about that. This is, I love the word hobbyist. I have never used that. I need to write that down. That's so funny. How have I never thought of that? But you're right. I would call them like kind of the more, open-hearted creative adults who like want to sing as a self-care practice. And sometimes self-care practice, like for me, it means I'm going to acupuncture once a week and that's my self-care, like,
That's right.
so maybe you go to singing lesson once a week and that's your self-care too. Like, absolutely. Yeah. I love, those are my favorite students.
This is a
Yes.
common, I mean, we love them all, right? But this is a common sentiment because there's a different type of investment, I
Yes.
mean, of
Yep.
course, we want to be able to make sure that if you're doing this for a living, that you're enjoying what you're doing for a living, right? As a
Yeah.
professional musician. But yeah, that element of self-care is so vital, so important. And like you said, it's just, it's a safeguard to to the rigidness, that this can easily turn into. So when you do get that person or any person, whether it's the voice student or the voice teacher that you nurture and pour into, and I know I am one of them that have benefited from the way that you encourage. What's one of the first things you say to the discouraged artist? Because whether they are the voice student or whether it's the voice teacher, well, we're all artists. We're all finding our artistry in these mediums we're using.
Yeah.
So for the one, I call them the recovering artist, even, where they've been the rigidness has hurt them in some form or fashion. They feel as though they're kind of stuck, or it may be something deeper. How do you? What's
Mm.
something that you say or do with them to get them from that place of discouragement, from a limiting belief? And again, we're not therapists, right? But we know the power of using singing as a medium to move through that and then to unlock some freedom. So I know that's a very
Yes.
broad question,
I love
but are there
it.
some flashes, some things that quickly come to your mind, or
Yeah,
even people?
definitely. Yep. Yes. The first thing I'll say is you are not alone, and we all
Mhm.
feel this way. And it's like I said before, we're all in seasons, and life is long, and take a break, and it's okay. And I like this version, the recovering artist. I was that person too. So I
Mhm.
remember when I kind of came out of my cave again as a singer. And actually, it really was, this was in grad school. I got vocal nodules and I had them for about 6 months. I couldn't really sing at the caliber that I was supposed to in grad school as a classical singer. So I spent an entire year in grad school mute in the back of the classes and silent and all of those things. So that was the most discouraging experience of my life, to be paying $75,000 and not be able to participate in anything. So I get it. And the way that I kind of liked to help my students and myself kind of bridge back in, because it is, you're dipping your toes back into water, because the water for you singing is icy and it doesn't feel good. It might feel really cold. You got out for a reason. And so diving right back in, practicing right again, like taking voice lessons and doing 30 minutes a day is not going to feel good for you. It's just not. You can't climb the ladder that quickly, and that's okay. Dip your toes in, right? We're going to dip our toes in. So I think something that really helps is kind of like just giving yourself a lot of love and grace when you try to sing, because what will happen is you will likely sing the way you did. And you have these like old habits and old things, right? We're all working on technique. We're all working on that. All of us have habits. Mm-hmm. But there's a little element of that has trauma around it. So it's a little different, and it feels that much more vulnerable and that much more. So when you start to sing again, you might feel all of those thoughts come back up rushing. Oh my God, you squeezed on that note. That sounded terrible. Look at the, and then you'll hear, I mean, for me, it's like particular phrases that someone said to me. Like one guy in school said to me, you sound like a classical singer trying to be a pop singer. And I will always remember that. And like, is that true? I have no idea. But that one voice is just there, right? And then I've got my ex-boyfriend who was an opera singer, and he was a baritone. And he's there because I can see his eyes looking at me in the performance, and his eyebrows raising up when I wasn't quite on that one note, right? So it's like, we all have those like thoughts and those, all those, the dark cloud, right? Mm-hmm. And so first, take a moment to just, you don't have to sing. And let's actually explore and see if we can first give ourselves a space where it's okay to explore, that it's safe to explore, that you tell yourself, maybe I'm curious about what this voice is and where this came from. Who said that? Why do I think that? Because sometimes we just don't even remember, like we have to take a moment to like put the language around the thought, you know, because it's so subconscious and so fast. So take that moment and just be with that. And what I usually do is I will actually go back in time, because I do have those moments, right? My ex-boyfriend, right? I can go back in time and I can put myself in that visual, and I can rewrite the story, or I can just love myself and remind myself he's one person. That's how you have safeguarded those high notes, and we're so afraid to sing flat on those high notes because of that one person. That's okay. That protected you and helped you at that time, right? To sing on stage and to see your boyfriend out there and to use your muscles to sound a certain way so that he would think a certain way about you. And now we don't have to have that story anymore. You're not even with that guy anymore. You're married. Like you've been with him for 12 years. So let's let that go and say, it's okay. I totally understand that you would feel that way, Allie. Travis is not here anymore. So I'm going to sing that high note and see how it would feel if I could just let it go, right? Or whatever it is. That's just one example, but it's giving yourself a moment to first acknowledge it's okay, and to say, yeah, that story really did help you at that time, but it doesn't have to help you now. Right now, you're dipping your toes in and you're practicing how to play and you're exploring your voice. And so let's just tell that little voice in our head, hey, I hear you, but do you think you could be a little quieter? Can you? And try, and then keep adding a little bit more melody. Use songs you love. Come back to your childhood, the songs that you really loved singing to, you know, things that no matter when you listen to them, they will make you feel good. All of that type of stuff. And just take it as a slow process and be very, very gentle with yourself and know that it's totally normal.
I love that. That felt like a little love note right there, you know, to so many of us who can identify. It's, again, I don't believe in coincidences. I was thinking a lot about this morning, just in dealing with what was kind of a not so fun conversation I had to have at the beginning of the week. And I had this thought about gatekeepers. And when you were telling the story of your ex-boyfriend, you know, and he's no longer the gatekeeper, you know, to you singing that note, you know, and so identifying who are the gatekeepers, you know, we think that if we don't work with them, or if we don't listen to them, or if we don't please them, that we can't do XYZ, you know? And so I love that examine, because the most important one is yourself.
Exactly.
It's yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Allie, thank you so much. Before we wrap things up, I like in the spirit of play. Are you down for a little rapid fire?
Always.
These aren't too hard.
I think. Okay.
These aren't too hard. I
Okay, good.
I promise. Okay, someone that we'll find on your playlist right now.
Closey.
Closey.
No one will ever hear of this in this voice teaching world. I am a closet, absolute obsessed with electronic bass music lover.
Thanks to your roommate.
Yeah, thanks to my roommate. Exactly. Yeah, she's incredible. She's actually a French guitarist, and she plays bass music that will literally put your ASS on the floor. Like, will not want to dance to her music. But it's so tasteful and so worldly and so musical. Like, I listen, I'm like, oh my God, she did a 4 there instead of a 5. Like, I'm that weirdo who like actually analyzes electronic music. But yeah, check her out. Closey, she's amazing.
I love it. We'll put it in the show notes. All right. So this may be that I may be predicting the next question. What song do you have stuck in your head? Could be something.
Ooh, what song do I have stuck in my head? I actually don't have a song Holy crap. I think that's like the first time in my life. You know, it's always something, right? That's so funny. I don't have a song in my head. Can I come back in a little bit?
I was gonna say, you have one of those brilliant melodies in your head, right?
I haven't listened to music yet this morning. That's so funny. Wow, I know. Yeah.
All right. I know this is cafecito, but coffee or tea?
Coffee. Lattes.
Yeah, all of it.
Actually.
Lattes in particular. I love it.
Yeah, we're spoiled. We don't even have a coffee machine. We only do lattes. Chai lattes. Anyway, yes.
Latest Netflix, Amazon, or streaming binge? What was the last show that you binged?
I'm not a binger, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but I have been into, what was that show called? Oh, Firefly Lane on Netflix.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Yeah.
Awesome, great. Okay, last but not least, knowing what you know now, what's something that you could go back and tell Allie 5 years ago?
Oh, okay, wait, how old was I? 5 years ago. I can't do math. Okay.
It's okay.
That's a really good question. 5 years ago, everything changed. Yeah, I bought a house. I got married. I would tell myself, it can be so much easier than you think. Everything can be so like 100 times easier. Stop overanalyzing and just do the damn thing. That's what
Yes. Yes, which is a lot of times, right? Like, just jump into the deep end. You're not going to learn how to swim unless you jump. So, Allie, thank you again. I think, people are going to be they're going to feel so loved and so encouraged, which is exactly your vibe. You're one of my favorite free-spirited people, and love you just as a fellow artist and as my business coach. And tell us where people can find you. This will be
Thanks, Melissa. I love you too. And I also want to give you a shout out because Melissa is like the most ideal student you could ever have. So truly, like, I love you too. And thank you for always supporting me and everything I'm doing. You can come find me in a couple of locations. So as a voice teacher and singer, you can come find me at The Whole Voice. And that is thewholevoice.com, The Whole Voice on Instagram in particular. And then as a voice teaching business coach, you can find me at The Voicepreneur. And that's the same thing. I'm on Instagram on both, and I've got websites for both, and I've got podcasts for both too.
Yes. And so much, again, we're like giving cross promoting here, because every episode that you open up, I listen to Apple Podcasts in particular, you get that listen now. I see the beautiful orange logo with your smiling face, and I'm like, hey,
Hey, we're listening.
Go make sure you follow her there too. Allie, thank you again, my love. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks, Melissa.